Hey, Talia here, and today on I Got Back Up, I'm joined by Matt Black. In 2020, Matt had an emergency 9-hour life-saving operation for bowel cancer. Now 5 years cancer-free, Matt believes that cancer has given him a voice, talking about his experience both as a cancer survivor and the signs to look out for. So Matt, when you hear the phrase "I got back up," what does it make you think and feel?
It means I've been through an adventure. I've come out through the other end. Uh, and I think I got back up. Well, there's two things. One, it's the adventure or the experience I've been through. Secondly, I think I've got back up is also about the backup you get from other people, and what you don't realize is how much backup you get from other people till you've been through something yourself.
Mm.
And having gone through my experience, I just realized how much backup and how much support there is out there from people, but also how resilient you have to be. And a lot of going forward, if you've had a challenge, it's a bit of a mental focus, but you've got to put yourself in the right place, in the right position to drive forward
Mm.
and not be defeated.
That's a really nice way of putting it, actually, the backup of other people as well. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but just quickly on that, it's one of those things where we sometimes don't realize the support we have, or sometimes when we do realize it, we are too scared to ask for the help. And, we're going to get into a lot of things, but
Well,
talk,
I go further than that. I think it's also a resistance to accept help and support.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, and not realizing that actually that helps people around you to be able to give that support and give that help. And I did a similar podcast. It was called The Gift of Help. And it was very much how people react and how people want to engage. To the extent that my message there was, if you know somebody's going through something, for God's sake, just reach out, send them a text, send them a message. They don't need to respond, but to know that people are out there. And don't be offended if they don't respond, because frankly, people are dealing with a lot of issues. But to know the love and support that's out there really helps the individual.
yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. Even if it's literally sending a message, which is just as like such. I mean, for there can be different ways of doing it. You can literally send a message and just say, "Hey, thinking about you,"
Yeah.
or you can not even bring up that and ask them something completely different. Talk about if it's football or something that you both might like, or if it's not anything to do with what they're going through. Because sometimes it's very different for different people. Sometimes people don't want to talk about it at all and just want to talk about a football match or anything really.
Correct. It's about engagement. I mean, one of the things I found, we'll come on to it as we discussed, but when I was ill, during my recovery period, the phone calls I got from totally unexpected people in my past who I'd lost contact with a number of years ago, who'd heard about what had happened, picked up the phone and just said, I wanted to say, thinking of you.
Yeah.
And that was it was really valuable to me mentally because it was lumps, but it's really uplifting and engaging when that happens. There were other times where, frankly, people would phone, I couldn't pick up the phone, so I literally couldn't speak. But to know that was happening was fantastic. And that is so important. And that's really my number one message out to people.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I do. So we've slightly mentioned your story, so let's get into it now. So it's over to you, and just take us anywhere that you want to start with, most resonates with who you are.
Okay, my cancer journey started a number of years ago in the odd date might be wrong, so I apologise. Around about 2013, 2014, my elder sister Harriet, who was 40 months older, developed breast cancer.
Mhm.
She had it for a number of years. It went away. In about 2017, cancer came back, and it was pancreatic cancer, which, as we all know, is a pretty there's not a lot of cure, but put it that way. And during her illness, she was brilliant. She didn't want to get involved in what was the treatment process going to be. She didn't want to get involved in the research, and actually, we didn't encourage her to do so. So the treatment plan was very much between her husband and myself and my siblings about seeing the doctors, seeing the consultants, looking at research programs, organising PET scans. So I knew all about PET scans. I knew about blood counts. I knew about tumour markers. I was a cancer expert. so I thought. And sadly, she passed away in June 2019. There was nothing we could do about it. And that was it was a very traumatic period, as you can expect. I'm one of four siblings. She was the oldest. Anyway, fast forward, we now get to COVID, which is March 2020, those days of lockdown you will all remember, where for some reason it was very sunny, very warm. We were all sitting outside, having family quizzes on Zoom, wine tasting, everything else. Apart from I was being, in the words of my family, a bit of a miserable git. I wasn't really engaging. I was tired, lethargic. I couldn't really eat. I had terrible night sweats. I didn't realize I was losing a lot of weight. And this went on for a couple of months. In fact, my son's 17th birthday, where we had a party at home, the four of us, a bit sad, but you've got to mark the event. And the family were really unimpressed because by about 9 o'clock, I just couldn't cope and went to bed. We made a real effort. About 2 weeks later, or a week later, I phoned up the local GP and said, this is my symptoms. I've got a really bad stomach as well, etc., etc. Bear in mind, it's all online. He said, oh, or on the phone. Said, probably got COVID, take an aspirin. Well, he's the doctor. You do what he says. A couple of weeks later, it's not getting much better. So I phoned him again, said, look, it's really feeling lousy. Not realising again the weight I'd lost. In his great way, sage way, he said, well, take 2 aspirin. That should accelerate it. And it fast forward a couple of weeks, family said enough's enough, took me to the Royal Free. Again, did bloods, did a scan, or did bloods, the test said, not sure what's going on. The problem with the white blood cells, you could be gluten intolerant. That may be the cause of it. At which point I'm thinking, no beer, no bread, no pasta. This really isn't going well. All right, another couple of weeks. Family saw I was in real trouble. I couldn't keep food in. I literally couldn't move. I went back to the Royal Free and they did more bloods. And actually, they weighed me and said, how heavy are you? I said, oh, about 83 kilos. I said, no, you're 72. And looked quite concerned. And then one of the doctors said, I think we ought to do a scan. So they did a scan. Frankly, it's bank holiday weekend in May. Hospital's empty. They're all in hazmat suits. It's slightly bizarre. You don't really see a face. They came back about an hour later with an older looking guy who had the badge consultant on. I thought this could be a bit serious. They said, we've looked at your scan. We think we can see there's a blockage. Why don't we keep you in overnight? We'll put some cameras in you and see what's going on. Well, at this point, frankly, I felt awful. Had nothing to lose. A night away from the family, which nobody else got during COVID. I thought, why not? And went into the Royal Free for the night. Bear in mind, family, my wife, Steph, and the kids cannot come in with me, so everything's being messaged by WhatsApp. Told them what was happening. That was it. 2 o'clock in the morning, the doctor, who was Dr. George, came in, put the lights on, said, I've been looking at your scans. I've been looking at your blood samples. I'm pretty sure you've got cancer. As you can imagine, 2 o'clock in the morning in a room on your own, that's a pretty overwhelming comment to hear. Your life literally flashes past you because you don't know what that means in terms of life expectancy, treatment, etc. All right, lie there looking at the light bulb, not doing very much else. Another couple of hours, another doctor comes in. Hi, I'm the emergency surgeon. I need to ask some questions in case we decide an immediate operation. Well, this night is not going well at all, as you can imagine. Next morning, in comes the consultant surgeon, a guy called Colin Hart, known in our family as God, who says, I've looked at your scans, I've looked at everything that's going on. I don't want to put a camera in you because I'm concerned that could cause more damage. We need to operate and see what's going on. And I said, okay, what are the risks? What's the worst case? Well, the worst case is obviously the worst case. Mm-hmm. So that's not good. I said, you could find a problem. You may wake up with a stoma, or we go in and we sort it out. But we think it'll be about an hour and a half's operation. We'll go in and find the blockage and see what's happening. I'm WhatsApping the family, telling them what's happening. So look, I'm going down now. They will call you when I'm out. Should be about an hour's time. Worst part, my daughter Holly, at that moment in time, is doing her final exams for uni that day. because it's online and that's the way it happens. Get down to theatre. There's 14 people there, which I was hoping at that point was probably because it's COVID and they were bored. But actually, it was probably the nature of the operation. I was in there for 9.5 hours. They discovered a tumour the size of a grapefruit, 6 by 9 centimetres in the middle of my bowel. 28 stitches down my front. Removed that, but had to remove 2/3 of my colon at the same time. Stitched me back together. I then spent 2 weeks in intensive care and then on the ward at the Royal Free. By the time I came out, and bear in mind I hadn't seen my family during any of this period, I was 62 kilos. So I'd lost a quarter of my body weight. I came out in a wheelchair, particularly unshaven, unkempt, looking particularly scruffy and skeletal. I think for my family, it was probably the most horrific sight and experience to pick me up at the Royal Free car park in a wheelchair. But I was lucky. I was really lucky. One, they found the tumour just in time. Had it been left any longer, it would have grown and blocked my colon totally, which could have been fatal, or it could have burst, which could have been fatal. So there, but by the grace of God, yeah, they had the capacity and the ability to deal with me and operate on me. Also, I didn't need radio or chemo after that because they'd taken out so much of my colon that I was fortunate an aspirin a day. What it did mean was I literally had to rebuild my body. I had to learn to walk again. Over a few weeks, I was literally coming out of the house, walking one house, coming home, exhausted, sleep 3 hours, two houses, coming home, sleep 3 hours, etc., to build that up. And at the time, I set myself a challenge. I said, right, Matt, I'd never run before. Did a lot of spinning, but no running. I said, you're going to do a 5K at some point. And that probably took me 9 months to do, building up, couch to 5K or whatever they call it. And I remember the day I did it, I happened, by chance, I was in Hampstead High Street. It was a Sunday afternoon. Not the best time to finish. And my Apple Watch pinged 5K and I just jumped up, screamed, and I think I cried actually. People are looking at me. It's crowded. You can see there literally what that is going on here. I thought, there's no point trying to explain the backstory. You don't need to know. But it was a massive, massive achievement. So that really was my story. And there were a number of things that came out of that. I think, as I mentioned to you, as a result of that, I'm very passionate about talking about my story, talking about the signs of bowel cancer, talking about my recovery to give people help. And I was lucky enough, about a year afterwards, to do a TV program on Sky with Deborah James, great Bowel Babe. And I was telling my story, and she was the one who said, if your family notices a difference or think you're in trouble, for God's sake, act on it, because they're the best people to notice and see. I'm a typical, I was 55 at the time, middle-aged bloke. Something wrong with me. Oh, bit of blood in my poo, probably a bit bad piles or something. Ignore it, it'll go away. Luckily, it was dealt with. But that's my sort of backstory of zero to, or go from normal to zero and back again in a pretty quick time. But it was quite a major life-changing experience.
How are you now?
Absolutely fine. I've just had 5 years clear, which again was a very monumental and emotional experience. NHS a bit were amazing. Checks the whole way through, 3 months and 6 months of blood tests, cameras all over me, checking me in now. I've got most of my weight back, but I'm trying to ensure I don't get it all back because actually, you've got the benefit of losing a load of fat, you may as well enjoy it. But do a lot more sport than I ever did, a lot more exercise, because part of the reason they operated on me so quickly was I was relatively fit at the time. And that resonates. So you ensure that you continue and maintain that fitness.
Mm. Yes, it's interesting that you said that because I remember when I had my knee surgeries and my physio, I've been doing sport slash the gym since I was a kid, and I remember them telling me that obviously if I kept up with my physio, etc., which I did, but being already so active and sporty would help in my recovery. and then obviously moving forward in the future. But something you mentioned just before, which is actually a really important point to note, is that sometimes whatever it is that you may be going through, if someone in your family or your friend mentions something, if you're not seeing it, you're right, they can see it.
Yeah, that's a really,
Whatever it might be, they can see the difference. You may not see it, but they can.
yeah, it's a really, really, one, listen to your own body and look at your own body, but take notice and take advice from other people. If they can see something's wrong, deal with it
Hmm.
or check it, even more to the point.
Hmm.
Less of this sort of head in the sand of don't want to take up the doctor's time. They're much too busy. They've got more important things to deal with.
Hmm.
I don't know if if I dealt with it any. I didn't have this. I didn't feel the signs any earlier. Although this thing had been sitting there for a number of years. Um,
Really?
had I have noticed earlier, clearly it could be dealt with in a much less dramatic way.
Hmm. 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 And what was your then with regards to your recovery? I know you mentioned upon it just before. What was that like? How was your recovery?
I mean, it's a very strange. It's mental and physical when
Yeah.
you've been through something like that. So to deal with the physical side, that was about getting up. That was, as I say, learning to walk, learning to just pushing yourself more and more and more, and being physically active. Uh, yeah, every morning I get up, I go for a run or I go for a walk. I go and do 5K. It's just part of my mental process and it's a way of discharging. But also mentally, I think there was a lot of changes. I spent 30 years in the corporate environment, in real estate, in big firms. I got to a stage where I thought, I'm not going to go into an office every day and just be an office. It was brilliant. I loved it. It'd been fantastic. It had given me a lot of opportunity, a lot of really interesting work. But I needed structural changes in my life. I needed to get my time back. That was both to do something different and to get away from what life was like before, because I think that's really important to have a bit of a fresh start. And also, I wanted to have more time to myself to do things like this, where we're talking today. I don't have to ask anybody if I can have, or tell anyone when I'm going off for an hour to do things. And part of my own mental recovery is also talking about my experience, not pretending it didn't happen, being an advocate. And I've ended up, I speak to large audiences, I do events, I've ended up doing TV, radio, written, etc. As my family say, talking about my favourite subject, me. But it's really cathartic and it's really helpful. And you feel that you're doing something to help others from your own experience, which I think is important.
Hmm.
I have other friends who've been through similar sort of things, and they don't like talking about it. Everybody's different, and each into their own. Uh, but I'm sort of rent a mouth now. But I found it has helped me very a lot.
And I think whether it's talking about it out loud to groups of people or even to one person, it comes with an acceptance of either what you've been through or what you're currently going through. And a lot of the time, that's also when sometimes people don't get help or they won't, want the help or they don't ask for the help is because even though maybe deep, 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 deep down, this is maybe more of like even a mental side of things, they know they're going through things, whatever it is. But until they accept it, that's kind of the leverage into then getting the help, asking for the help, seeing
Well,
if things change. It comes with a huge part of acceptance.
I think it's a really interesting point. And my journey about talking about it wasn't waking up one day and thinking, "Oh, start chatting." I'd been out of the office for 3 months. I just overnight, although it was COVID, overnight disappeared. Yeah, I hadn't said to anyone I was going. I've got to tell the world, clients, colleagues where I've been. So I wrote something on LinkedIn, and I wrote about my experience. It was just after Chadwick Boseman had passed away from bowel cancer, and I compared our journeys. And it was quite a short piece, in about 200-300 words. And it was amazing. It suddenly got traction, not just from colleagues and friends, but I was getting messages from people I'd never met, never will meet, saying, thank you for talking about it. Thank you for being a bloke, talking about bowel cancer, talking about people. Either I've been going through something similar, or I know someone who's been going through something similar, or I'm worried about someone who's got something similar. and there's not much conversation about it. Thank you for raising the conversation. That then meant I thought, well, that's interesting, and I
Mm.
expanded the piece I'd written to a few pages, which is all well and good. But you're right. What do I do with it now? This is great, but it's sitting on my desk. And I sent it to Bowel Cancer UK, to Cancer Research, uh, Bowel Research, to a few of the key charities. Said, written this, let me know what can I do with it? Is there anything I can do? Can I help you? And the response was, again, really interesting. So it's great because middle-aged blokes don't talk about sensitive issues,
Mhm.
especially about the bottom, the poo, and the colon. Dare I use the P word? Uh, and that just, it sort of became a whole world of its own in terms of press and media and websites and this and that and the other. Uh, and a lot of it is, and even I did something at the Royal College of Surgeons to a bunch of consultants where I called it customer feedback, they called it patient engagement. Um, and this is brilliant because, again, patients don't talk about their experience very often. They don't give us that feedback. How did you feel emotionally? What was it like when the doctor talked to you? How did you feel with those words that you've got cancer? How did you feel when you were going into the operating theatre? What was waking up and feeling your body see if you had a stoma like? Uh, it was a whole, it was just fascinating engagement.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is even just everything you just mentioned, I then thought about all the different parts in my journey, and it hit me actually, literally just from what you were saying, from just going into the operating theatre. I remember going to the operating theatre with one leg already operated on and the other one fully intact, and then I remember waking up with two with bandages on,
Yeah.
and I'm very, obviously different, and even things like that, I remember the difference of waking up and suddenly, with one knee operated and then suddenly both, and even just things like that. You're right, people don't talk about these kind of things, how they really feel. The moments I even wrote, actually, funny enough, I'm talking about LinkedIn this week, obviously depending when this episode goes out, but this current week while we're filming, I wrote on LinkedIn about the seconds before I went into surgery, the seconds before, because my surgeon asked me to play a song. He asked me for a song. And I was like, yeah, a song? He was like, yeah, give me a song. Give me a song to play so you can listen to it as you're whisked off to sleep. And I remember that. I remember having that conversation with him. I can't tell you how far I got into that song, but I remember him talking to me about the song, and then suddenly I was awake with
I had the same. I had a lovely anaesthetist who said, "Tell me about your career. What's the highlight?" And for me, I was involved in the Olympics. I started talking about the Olympics. I thought, yeah, got a great story. I think I must have bored it. So I suspect I got about, yeah, I was involved with the Olympics and bang. But I can remember that conversation. And then I can remember waking up. And yeah, as part of this conversation, it brings all of that back.
Yeah, it does. It does, and it's very important actually that you do talk about it, and we all do talk about it, because it's a huge part of the human element of what we're going through. We're still human beings at the end of the day with feelings and emotions and thoughts and fears and whatever it might be, whether you're about to go into an operation or you're waking up from an operation or you're being told you have a diagnosis or you need to have an operation on XYZ. We're all still human beings, and we're all going to still feel things when we are told these things or seen these things or about to do these things. And it's terrifying. Like, it can be absolutely terrifying. But being able to talk about it out loud, when you then know if you are having to go through something like that, you are never alone.
Right. And I think the other area, exactly on that sort of subject, is your immediate family and the impact that has on them and the support actually that they need from it. Because you and I, we were the patient. We
Mm.
were the people having that sole focus. Everybody was phoning up, how are we? How are we recovering? How are we dealing with it? You forget there are mothers, fathers,
Yeah.
husbands, wives, children, siblings who are going through a very traumatic process as well. I think part of what I also learned, if there's a plus side, one of the plus sides that I always gives me joy is the love and support that Steph, Holly, and Leah, my wife and kids, got during that period. I mean, I laughed with one of our friends. I went into hospital with a very full wine fridge. She was brilliant. She'd come around every day. I'm not saying her name purely because it was COVID. I don't want to get into trouble. But she'd come around every day, sit on the terrace, complain she got sunburned. But I noticed when I got back the one day, I said, the wine fridge is empty. And they said, yeah, it was so and so. But friends were coming round, checking up, supporting. Uh, and the value of that was just, when I look back, it is phenomenal and so, so important. And it comes back to what we were talking about before when we were talking about reaching out to people who've gone through an experience. It's not just them, it's the people close to them as well. I think that's really, really important and is one of my messages.
So what would you say to the people that are going through the experience? So they're not the patients themselves, but what would you say to family members or even close friends that are going through that with someone that they love?
I was interested. Yeah, I can talk about it firsthand from having gone through that with my sister
Yeah.
Harriet. Uh, look after yourself. Be careful. The stress you are going through, and it has been suggested by some doctors that my problem was accelerated by the stress going through helping Harriet. I don't know if that's right or not. Frankly, I don't really care if it's right or not. But the fact that has been suggested means you've got to look after yourself as well as the patient, or you're no bloody use whatsoever. And it comes back to, again, another podcast I did, accepting the gift of help. Accept that friends want to reach out to you. You might not be the patient, but they're looking after you, and look after yourself. Take oxygen, take time out. Run yourself to the ground. You're no use. It is just as emotionally draining and impactful to you as the support team as it is to the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important that you take a bit of air, you take a bit of breath, you have a bit of your normal routine, you do what you need to do, and you look after yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the looking after yourself 100%. 100%. You have to look after yourself in any way, capacity, shape, or form that feels best to you. Everyone does it very differently, but you have to look after
Yeah,
yourself.
you've got to
And
build
it's
that shield
so
around yourself. It's really key. And don't be shy to lean on others
yeah,
because that's what friends are for.
yeah,
If friends run to the hill at that point, they're not friends anymore. And
yeah,
I did have, I had one or two that I never heard from. Well, they're not friends anymore. That's
yeah.
fine. Each of their own. But more importantly, I've got a number of people who I thought were reasonably good friends are actually great friends as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
The support they gave us all.
Mm. And what's interesting as well is something I've also seen is sometimes it's not even necessarily sorry, it is, but it's you can find out who your team are, your support are. Yes, obviously going through hard, dark times in life, but sometimes you also find out who they are during your most happiest times. You
Yeah.
see who's around during the dark times, but then who's still there when you're happy as well. And that has always fascinated me.
Yeah. I mean, there's a balance. Some people are there in the dark times because they think it's the thing to do.
Yep.
Okay. That's the way they work. That's who they are. It is better they do that than do nothing at all. But yeah, you're right. It's your sort of your close. It's like in any situation, your close group are the key people,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
and always will be. And if you have a reasonable sized close group, you're a very lucky person.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter how big or small, just having the right people around you is what's important.
Yeah. So come back to what is the message to those going through it. It's accept help.
Mm.
Particularly. That's look after yourself and accept help. It
Mhm.
helps you. It helps you, and it helps other people feel better helping you.
So then I was going to say, but I guess this actually answers it. What would you say to somebody then that's going through themselves, then that's going through whatever it might be? But I mean, yes, accepting help, but is there anything else that you would say to them?
No, it's funny. I had a coffee with a friend yesterday who's going through
Hmm.
something in the cancer world, and he said, what's your advice? I said, besides the obvious, which is exercise while you can,
Hmm.
eat healthily, look after yourself. Remember those around you are going through something, and just remember you've got a team around you that are doing the best thing they can to help you. So listen. Just don't be shy of taking advice. Don't be shy of listening to people, and let everyone into the camp. don't block people out,
Mm.
because it helps them, it helps you, and it helps everybody. You're not the it's not you're not the only one going on this journey. People do go on this journey. As we get older, you hear more and more people that you know of or come across. It's a fact of life.
Mm.
There's
Yeah.
no pill, but it's just don't. And also, if you're going through it, you will get angry at times. There is that why me? Why did it happen to me? It's not fair, but it did. You can't, you can't turn the clock back. You can't change it.
Hmm. Exactly. And I guess it's the you will get the why me, but then it's what are you going to do with
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you've been doing amazing things by spreading the word, by showing so many different people. But I just want to ask then, what are if anybody is listening, what are the symptoms or signs of bowel
Okay, so the key things to look out for, the weird night sweats, loss of weight, fatigue, bowel changes, should we say, a loose bowel. And God's sake, regardless of that, check your poo every few times. Just have a look. Not the nicest thing to say, but just have a look. If there's any sign of any blood spots anywhere, that means you need to go and have it looked at. Doesn't mean it's bowel cancer at all. Could be piles, could be anything. But do that. Secondly, much older yourself, but as you get to 50, you get the bowel screening kit. Not a pleasant thing to do, but just do it. It's 5 minutes of your life, and it could save your life. So, my key things are look out for the obvious signs. If there's something strange with your body, ask for help. But the NHS provide the tests. Do them. That's what they're there for.
yeah, I think that's a big takeaway. If you're offered a test, just
Just
do
do
it.
it.
Do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Just do it. You're right. Just do it. It's always it's always good to then just know. Just do it. May as well if you're
Yeah.
offered it.
And again, listen to clues. I mean, I think a year beforehand, when I think back, I had a company medical, one of those Bupa standard things, and there was a comment somewhere about white blood cells. And I was a bloke, so it's like, yeah, whatever. Could well have been a clue.
Yeah.
So listen and just act on things and deal with it.
Yeah. So listen, talk, and yeah, go to the tests when you're offered them.
Yeah, just listen to your body. See what your body's got to say. Just deal with it.
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. Is there anything else that you'd like to share on this today?
Uh, no, I think that's really the story. I'm not a real. It's great to 5 years clear. That's the key thing.
Mhm.
Came through the process. My daughter slightly mugged me. I mentioned she said, Dad, when we've done 5 years, we're going to do something big. We're going to do a fundraiser. And I was thinking 5K in the park or maybe a 10K or something like that. So come March, we're trekking the Himalayas for Bowel Fund.
No way,
Which
that'd be amazing.
is brilliant. Yeah, we're doing that. So public comment, just giving. Matt and Holly do the Himalayas. Got to plug it. But it's about, and that's raising money and continuous awareness,
Hmm.
because that's the key thing. And it'll be an interesting dad-daughter experience. No Wi-Fi, no makeup mirrors.
How long are you going for?
I think we're out there for about 10 days or something, 10, 11 days.
Oh, it's going to be so
It'll be
much
brilliant.
fun.
She lives in Singapore. Live in London. We're meeting in Delhi with the trek and going up the mountains, which should be fantastic.
Oh, that's going to be absolutely amazing. But yes, if anyone is listening, please, 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 absolutely do support. I'll add the links in. Please do support. That'd be amazing. Oh, good luck. I'm
Yeah,
excited
thank you
for
very
you.
much. Sorry?
I said,
Yeah. The only challenge is at the moment, I think I've got the list through, and I think it's 2 men and 18 women because it's Bowel Babe, it's mainly women focused, but it'll be interesting. It'll be fun.
it will be a lot of fun.
And joking apart, it's a celebration of being clear. And when I came out at 62, 63 kilos and couldn't walk, I never thought I'd be able to do something like this. So that comes back to just persevere like you did, exactly as you did. Pick yourself up, take your time, set an ambition, set an aim, and remember you've had something that's happened, but there is a normal life out there, and get on with it.
Yeah, that's a really nice way of putting it. Thank you. I like that. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here today. Life will knock us down, sometimes hard,
and sometimes more than once. And when it feels impossible, know that your story isn't over yet. Sometimes, when everything is falling apart, it's really falling into place. You have the power to rise, to heal, to make magic, and to evolve. And you have the power inside you. We all do. You have the power to get back up.